every avoidant relationship follows a cycle, not sometimes, not maybe, always. It unfolds in stages so predictable that once you see them, you can never unsee them. One day they're pulling away, the next they're missing you, then they're suddenly back testing the waters, only to face the same painful crossroad again. And the truth is, if you don't understand these stages, you'll spend months, even years, trapped in confusion, blaming yourself for something that was never your fault. Think about it. How many times has your avoidant partner gone distant, leaving you wondering what you did wrong? How many times have they disappeared, only to reappear out of nowhere, acting like nothing ever happened? And every time they come back, a small part of you hopes, maybe this time it's different. Maybe this time they'll stay. But then the cycle repeats, and you're left broken all over again. Here's what most people don't realize. Avoidants aren't acting randomly. They're not hot and cold because of you. They're hot and cold because of their attachment system. Their behavior runs on a loop: escape, nostalgia, reconnection, and then the final choice: stay or run. These are the 4 stages of every avoidant relationship. And by the end of this video, you'll know each stage inside out. You'll finally understand why they run, why they return, and most importantly, what truly determines whether they stay for good or leave you stuck in the same exhausting pattern forever. So let's break down the cycle, the 4 stages of every avoidant relationship. If you've ever loved an avoidant, you already know the chaos, the sudden distance, the unexplained silence, the coldness that cuts deeper than words. And just when you've convinced yourself it's over, they reappear, texting like nothing happened, smiling like they never broke you, pulling you right back into their orbit. It feels unpredictable, it feels personal, and it leaves you questioning your own worth. But here's the shocking truth. It's not random at all. Every avoidant follows a hidden cycle, a cycle so predictable it can be broken down into 4 distinct stages. And once you see these stages clearly, you'll never fall for the same confusion again. In this video, we're not just talking theory, we're pulling apart the exact blueprint of avoidant behavior, the roadmap that explains why they vanish, why they return, and what determines if they finally stay for good. In stage 1, you'll see why their silence after pulling away isn't proof they never cared. It's actually relief mixed with fear, the relief of escaping closeness and the fear of being trapped. You'll finally understand why they look fine while you're falling apart. In stage 2, you'll discover the secret force that flips absence into longing, why avoidants suddenly start to miss you, sometimes months later, even more intensely than you ever expected, and why they only allow themselves to feel this longing when you've stopped chasing. In stage 3, you'll witness the delicate dance of their return, why they reach out with casual, low-pressure messages, why they test your reaction so carefully, and why one wrong move from you, too much pressure, too much emotion, can scare them right back into retreat. And in stage 4, you'll uncover the ultimate crossroad, the moment where the avoidant has to decide, will they finally lean into intimacy, or will they run once again? You'll know exactly what makes them stay, what pushes them away, and how much of it is actually in your control. By the end of this video, the confusion will break. You'll stop asking what did I do wrong, and start seeing the bigger truth. Avoidants aren't running from you. They're running from their own fear of closeness. And once you see that, you'll hold the power. This isn't just information, this is clarity. And clarity is what sets you free. The first stage begins the moment the avoidant pulls away, or ends the relationship. For you, it feels like your world just collapsed. You're drowning in questions, pain, and emptiness. But for them, it almost looks like the opposite. They seem calm, detached, even relieved. And that contrast cuts deeper than the breakup itself. How can they look fine while I'm falling apart? This is the cruel illusion of stage 1. Avoidants experience a temporary sense of freedom right after separation. In their minds, the breakup has lifted the invisible weight of closeness, the pressure of intimacy that quietly suffocated them. They convince themselves that leaving was the right choice, that now they can finally breathe. This relief isn't joy, it's defense. What you're witnessing is their deactivation system at work. Psychologists describe this as the avoidance unconscious strategy to protect themselves from the vulnerability of love. Instead of processing the loss, they shut their feelings down. They distract themselves with work, hobbies, casual flings, or endless scrolling. Anything to silence the voice that reminds them of you. While you're in the raw pain of missing them, they're in denial of missing you. While you cry yourself to sleep, they convince themselves they never needed the relationship in the first place. And while you search for answers, they bury theirs under distractions. This is why so many partners of avoidance feel like the breakup was one-sided. You see their smiles, their Instagram posts, their busy lifestyle, and it feels like they've moved on without a scratch. But the truth is they haven't healed. They've simply numbed. They're running from the very feelings you are courageously facing. Stage 1 is dangerous, not because of what it means for them, but because of what it does to you. It makes you believe the story that you were disposable, replaceable, forgettable, that they didn't care, but none of that is true. What's happening here is not love lost. It's fear disguised as freedom. And here's the most important part. This stage doesn't last, because when the distractions fade, and the silence grows louder, denial cracks. And when it does, they enter stage 2, the stage where avoidance slowly turns into longing. After the initial escape, the avoidant enters a quieter stage, one they never admit to out loud. This is the stage of nostalgia and idealization. On the surface, they still look fine. They're still busy, still laughing, still distracting themselves. But something subtle starts to shift. In the silence of distance, memories begin to creep in. This is what psychologists call the Phantom X phenomenon. It's when avoidants, after pushing someone away, suddenly begin to recall only the best parts of the relationship. The fights, forgotten, the moments of tension, erased. What lingers are the highlights. Your laugh, the comfort of your presence, the way you made them feel understood when the world didn't. They don't remember the whole picture. They remember a carefully filtered version that feels safe. Why does this happen? Because longing for the avoidant is only tolerable when you're at a distance. When you were close, intimacy triggered their fear. But when you're gone, closeness is no longer a threat. Missing you becomes safe, because it's happening inside their mind, not in reality. This is the heartbreaking paradox. They often start to miss you right when you've stopped chasing them. When you're no longer texting, pleading, or demanding answers, you unknowingly create the exact condition that allows their nostalgia to bloom. Your absence gives them space to feel the truth they couldn't face before. You mattered more than they admitted. And in this stage, the avoidance mind becomes a theater of idealization. They replay the best moments like a highlight reel, editing out the parts that scared them. They may even begin to wonder, did I make a mistake? But instead of running toward you with clarity, they stay trapped in their own head, torn between comfort in the memory and fear of repeating the reality. Meanwhile, you might still be in pain, thinking they've erased you. But in truth, you've become larger in their mind than you were in their daily life. They miss you not despite the distance, but because of it. And this stage has a tipping point, because nostalgia, if left unchecked, doesn't stay silent forever. It pushes the avoidant closer to action, to test the waters, to reach out, to see if the door is still open. That's when stage 3 begins. The return. After nostalgia has been simmering in their mind, the avoidant reaches a crossroads. The longing they once suppressed now pushes them toward a quiet experiment. This is stage 3, testing the waters. Don't expect a grand gesture or an emotional confession. Avoidants don't return with clarity. They return with caution. It usually begins small, an unexpected "Hey, how have you been?" text, a random reaction to your story, a casual like on a post you made weeks ago. To you, it might feel confusing, or even insulting. After everything, this is all they say. But for them, this tiny reach out is enormous. Why? Because avoidants are hypersensitive to pressure. The closer they get to intimacy, the louder their fear becomes. So instead of walking through the front door, they test the lock with a fingertip. Their question is not, "Do I love you?" It's, "Is it safe for me to come closer without losing myself?" This is the paradox of stage 3. They want connection, but only if it feels free of demands. If you respond with anger, pressure, or interrogation, "Why now? What do you really want?" their walls slam back up. They retreat, sometimes more permanently. But if your response is neutral, calm and safe, something inside them relaxes. They feel like maybe, just maybe, they can step a little closer without drowning. It's not fair, it's not balanced, and it certainly isn't the fairy tale reunion you crave. But it is progress. Because underneath that casual hello is a bigger question they can't ask directly. Can you accept me without overwhelming me? This stage tests your patience and clarity. Many partners mistake it as a game, when in reality, it's the avoidance nervous system protecting itself. The less chased they feel, the more space they have to lean in. And here's the twist. The way you handle this stage determines whether they retreat forever or begin to reattach. If you can respond without losing your own boundaries, you show them that love doesn't have to feel like suffocation. That's when their fear of intimacy begins to weaken, and stage 4 slowly unfolds, the stage where they finally decide, stay or run. If stage 3 was about testing, stage 4 is about choosing. This is the crossroad every avoidant eventually faces, the point where fantasy collides with reality. At first, the reconnection can feel magical. It's almost like a honeymoon 2.0. Conversations are lighter, the tension is gone, and for a brief moment, both of you may feel like you've been given a second chance. The avoidant is warm, present, even affectionate, and you think, finally, they're back. Maybe this time will be different. But here lies the truth. Most people don't see this stage isn't the end of the journey, it's the test, because the closer intimacy grows again, the louder their old wiring begins to speak. Their nervous system whispers, "Am I safe here, or am I about to lose myself again?" This is where two very different paths open. Option A, stay and grow. If the relationship feels steady, if there's safety, respect for boundaries, and a partner who shows consistency without pressure, the avoidant begins to soften. Slowly, they start to trust that closeness doesn't equal control. This is when genuine growth can happen. It's not easy, but it's the only road where an avoidant learns to lean in instead of running away. With patience, therapy, and a secure partner, this stage can lead to a more stable bond than before. Option B, retreat and repeat. But if fear outweighs safety, if the avoidant feels even a hint of engulfment, criticism, or emotional demand, they often retreat, not because they don't care, but because their fear is stronger than their love. And when this happens, the cycle repeats: escape, nostalgia, testing, and then back to this same fork in the road. For many couples, this is the most painful truth. The avoidant leaves not because you weren't enough, but because their fear of intimacy wins again. The crossroad is the moment of clarity, but also of heartbreak, because you can't choose for them. You can only choose for yourself: stay, if growth is possible, or walk away if the cycle repeats. And this is the real shocking truth. Avoidants don't break your heart in the leaving. They break it in the coming back, because every return raises hope, and every retreat deepens the wound. Here's what you need to understand, once and for all. When an avoidant pulls away, it's not because you are unworthy, unlovable, or lacking in something essential. It is not a reflection of your failure. It is a reflection of their fear. Their nervous system is wired to equate closeness with danger. So when they retreat, they're not running from you. They're running from the ghost of their own past. And when they come back, that too is not proof of your specialness alone. It's not some cosmic sign that you're the one. It's simply the predictable rhythm of their cycle. Distance lowers their anxiety. Loneliness reawakens their longing. Curiosity pushes them back toward you. And just like that, the loop begins again. It feels personal, but in reality, it's a pattern, a dance they've been doing long before you, and often long after you. Here's the truth. Most people resist. You cannot control this cycle. You cannot fix it with more love, more patience, or more sacrifice, because their behavior isn't about your effort. It's about their wiring. The power doesn't lie in trying to change them. The power lies in deciding how you respond. And this is where your growth begins. Do you spend your life chasing the breadcrumbs of connection they sporadically offer? Or do you recognize the cycle for what it is and reclaim your energy? When you stop personalizing their push and pull, you take back control. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What do I deserve?" Because the shocking truth is this: avoidants may never change unless they choose to confront their own fears. But you have a choice right now. You can stop living at the mercy of their cycle. You can step out of the dance and finally step into your own healing. The real power has always been in your hands, not in their leaving, not in their returning, but in your decision to grow, regardless of what they choose. So now you see it. The cycle wasn't random. It wasn't fate playing tricks on you. It was a pattern, a predictable loop of escape, nostalgia, testing, and crossroads. And once you've seen the pattern, you can never go back to innocence. You can no longer tell yourself, maybe this time it will be different, because now you know exactly what different would require: healing, growth, and a willingness on their part to confront their fear of intimacy. But here's the part that matters most. You don't need to wait for that. You don't need to spend your life standing at the edge of their fear, hoping one day they'll choose love over running, because your worth, your capacity to love and be loved, doesn't depend on whether an avoidant finally decides to stay. The truth is, stable, consistent, secure love is possible. A love where you don't have to chase. A love where presence doesn't feel like pressure, and closeness doesn't end in silence. That kind of love exists, and you deserve it. So the question isn't, will the avoidant ever change? The real question is, when will you decide you deserve more than a cycle? Because the moment you choose growth over waiting, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over endless chasing, that's the moment your healing begins. And if this video gave you that clarity, if it gave you the language for the pain you've been carrying, then don't let it stop here. Hit subscribe, follow along, and keep walking with me as we uncover the truths no one else dares to say out loud. Because you don't just need answers, you deserve transformation.